Hello lovely lot, welcome back to the Max Goodwin YouTube channel. Hope you all have a lovely day today, and welcome back to the Euro Reaction, a series where we go through all the big games and talking points from Euro 2020, dissect them a little bit, and have a bit of back and forth talking about what we think is going on throughout the tournament. As always, if you enjoy the videos, don't forget to hit like down below and subscribe to the channel before we crack into things. And also be sure to let me know what you think of the games from the last couple of days of Euro 2020, specifically the semi-finals between Italy and Spain and England and Denmark. And without any further ado, let's get into a bit of discussion for the semi-final, starting with semi-final number 1 with Spain taking on Italy. What a doozy it was at Wembley as well. Alright then, so we're going to kick things off talking about the first semi-final with Spain taking on Italy at Wembley Stadium on Tuesday night. A very decent game of football played by both teams, as you'd probably expect. Spain playing the more possessional style, Italy sitting in and defending very well, but did use their midfield very well to progress the ball. I was particularly impressed with the performance of Jorginho in the end on the day. For me, possibly in there as one of the players of the tournament so far. Jorginho has controlled the pace of every game he's played in for Italy. Italy have looked a lot, more solid than they have in recent years in the midfield, alongside the likes of Barella, Verratti and Manuel Locatelli. And I think he's done a really good job of dictating the play, passing the ball along, keeping it moving, but not just passing it, side to side, progressing it forward, playing progressive passes, which is passes playing the ball at 10 yards further towards goal, if you didn't know. And just all in all having a very good and successful tournament so far. He didn't score though for Italy. It was actually Federico Chiesa getting on the end of an Immobile ball and finishing it into the back of the net. A very well taken goal from Chiesa, who himself has had a pretty decent breakout tournament following a very actually quite underrated season at Juventus so far this year. Had a really good goal scoring campaign for Juventus, created some good chances as well for them, and was one of their best players in what's been a pretty down period for the old lady in the last sort of 12 months or so. However, Spain would fire themselves back in with Morata coming off the bench and getting himself a goal to force it to extra time, where no team was really able to make a breakthrough. There were a lot of high quality chances created at both ends of the pitch, but all in all, it wasn't really a game for the strikers finishing off their chances, which did mean we would go to penalties, in which Italy would prevail 4-2 on the penalty shootout in the end. Very well done to the Nerazzurri. A good performance from them so far this tournament. Their first final, I believe, since 2006. No, Euro 2012. Just remembered, I had written down that they'd made it to the 2006 World Cup Final 1, but actually they made it to the final Euro 2012, where they lost to Spain, funnily enough, on that occasion. And to say this is their first tournament since the 2014 World Cup, I think they've done miraculously well. I think they're one of the teams that have very much benefited from having an extra year, much like England have. We'll get into them in a little bit, but they've definitely benefited from having an extra year of preparations. It's given the likes of Barella and Locatelli the chance to really develop as essential first team players, and Domenico Berardi as well on the right hand side, Spinazzola on the left as well. Overall, pretty good tournament from the Italians. There will be a very formidable opposition, but who will they be playing in the final? Let's check it out. England versus Denmark. Okay then, so let's have a little chat about England taking on Denmark last night at Wembley Stadium as well. A really good game from both teams, both flying out of the blocks with very aggressive pressing systems from the off. About the first 15 minutes was very much in England's court, second 15 minutes very much Denmark's court, and then the final 15 minutes of the first half was very much a more open contest, and that definitely sort of established itself as a very open game in the second half, and then very much swung back into England's favour during the period of extra time. We'll have a little chat though about the goals. The first came from Mikkel Damsgaard, a very, very in-demand player now after, again, much like Chiesa, a breakout tournament for the young Dane. Currently playing his football at Sampdoria, who signed him for just 7 million euros. Now it's been rumoured that they aren't looking at accepting anything below 50 million euros. That's what I've seen from Fabrizio Romano on Twitter. So should be quite interesting if he's got any kind of release clause. I know a lot of the European teams play with release clauses, so if he's got one, then might be worth taking a punt on if you're a sort of upper mid-table Premier League team, or an upper team in somewhere like the Bundesliga or the Spanish La Liga or something like that. Really well taken free kick. He's stepped up massively since the unfortunate illness of Christian Eriksen, and has really filled the gap that the former Tottenham midfielder has vacated in his absence. Speaking of which, England would then get themselves back into the game. Lovely little reverse ball through the lines by Harry Kane, finding Bukayo Saka, who squares it across the box. And it is technically finished off of Simeon Kjaer, but it wouldn't have been anywhere near as dangerous a chance had Raheem Sterling not made one of them trademark in-cutting runs from the left-hand side that he is absolutely famous for Manchester City. One of the sort of trademarks of this game that I've always sort of talked about. Lovely ball across the box from Bukayo Saka, and unfortunately for Denmark, forced into the back of the net by Simeon Kjaer, who, to be fair, there wasn't really much he could do. There was no way he was going to get enough underneath it to sort of scoop over the top of the goal. Schmeichel's in no man's land, and if he'd not got to it, Sterling would have more than likely scored. It was from like 2 yards out. So pretty fair that it was an own goal. Can't really complain about it. In the second half of the game, England really struggled to break down what was a pretty low block from Denmark. They definitely operated with a very compact verticality in their team, using the wide areas as best as they could, particularly down the right-hand side with Struan Larsen. And Mailer on the other side did do a decent job of getting up and down, but it was definitely down the right-hand side, trying to stretch with Braithwaite as well, trying to sort of run in the channels and stretch the England defence, which I think is probably the best way in which a team can break this team, our England team, down with how high a line that we end up playing, particularly on the front foot, and with the lack of mobility, potentially on the left-hand side, especially when Shaw presses up. Maguire's not the quickest. Declan Rice at times had sort of come across from the midfield and sort of shuttle across and cover Luke Shaw when he made those runs forward, which is pretty fair. He definitely was one of the more creative outlets, the Manchester United left-back. The game, though, would eventually go to added time, 30 minutes of extra time that were probably one of the longest 30 minutes of my life as an England fan. We did eventually make the break through a dubious penalty. I'll admit it was probably, on the balance of things, probably not a penalty. At the time, I thought it was clear and obvious, but having seen it on the sort of replay and slowed down through VAR and things like that, I would personally say it probably wasn't a penalty. But England created over 20 chances in this game. Denmark created less than 10. It was very much all in England's favour, pounding away at them through the majority of the last, at least 20 minutes of normal time and the 30 minutes of extra time. You could have really, counted on one hand the amount of chances that Denmark actually had after going ahead in the first half. Really well taken penalty, though, from Harry Kane. Actually really well saved as well, to be fair, from Kasper Schmeichel, though the England talisman and captain was there to finish the rebound, that's the word I'm looking for, to put England 2-1 up in added time. I think it was like at the end of the first half of it. And England would eventually sort of see things out despite a late sort of onslaught from the Danish attack late in the game, meaning they prevailed 2-1 and head to Wembley to take on Italy on Sunday night, which I am buzzing for. I'm only 22 years old, so in my lifetime we've only made it to 2 semi-finals, that being the semi-final of the last World Cup and the final and semi-final of this Euros. So in my lifetime, this is the best we've ever done. Even in my parents' lifetime, they were like, toddlers when we won the World Cup, and since then it's been a few semi-finals, and the majority of which, we've been taken to extra time and pretty much outclassed. So this is an amazing feeling as an England fan to actually be able to watch England in the final of a major tournament. Okay, it's not the World Cup, and okay, we had not a particularly difficult run to the final, though credit. We did have to take on Germany, who were decent on the day, Ukraine, who, they're no slouches. They made it to the quarterfinals on their own merit, and Denmark, who more than deserve to be in the semi-finals of the Euros. They've been one of the best teams to watch so far this tournament. And you can't really make any complaints, I don't think, at England's performances massively. One goal conceded in the whole competition. That one being that free kick from Damsgaard, which, Pickford could have saved, but no goals from open play is insane. A decent goal scoring record as well. Forwards who are in form, Harry Kane's got 4 goals this tournament. Raheem Sterling has 3, I believe, so there's goals as well. So really be interesting to see how we get on in the final against Italy. In terms of the final on Sunday against Italy, I'm very much expecting this to be a game battled within the midfield. Jorginho is going to be the key, probably to the entire game. Managing to get somebody pressing him whenever he's on the ball is going to be very important. I think we found, particularly in his early days at Chelsea, if you stick a man on him during, the majority of the game to press him, to put him under pressure, he does struggle sometimes, particularly considering his lack of mobility in there. And I think if we can do that, and if we can somehow mitigate the running ability of Marco Verratti and also of Nico Barella in there as well, and Manuel Locatelli's able to dictate as well. I think if we can really stifle that midfield, they're going to struggle. I think Immobile struggles without any service coming into him. Berardi as well, he'll probably be forced to drop deep, much like Insigne as well. And I think if we can really sort of stifle off the passing range of Jorginho and the running ability of the other midfielders through our own midfielders, that may involve us going to a 3 in midfield and dropping Mason Mount in there, playing basically man for man, getting Mount marking Jorginho, and then having Phillips and Rice sort of watching the runs of, I'm assuming, what's going to be Barella and Verratti in the midfield, I'm probably going to imagine. I think as well down the left-hand side, Emerson has come in on the left-back position for Italy due to the injury to Leandro Spinazzola. So I think Walker, who I imagine is probably going to play right back, and one of Sancho or Saka or Grealish or Sterling, whoever's playing on the right, I think we really need to hammer down that side of the pitch and exploit Emerson, who's not played a lot of football recently and is also defensively a very suspect left back. On the right hand side, Di Lorenzo as well. I think we can really give him a tough game, especially if Sterling's feeling as up to it as he has done for England in the last few games. Speaking of which, I'm going to do probably a retrospective of this tournament next week when it's all wrapped up and I've had a couple of days to sort of get my mind around everything and have a decision on it. But I do think Raheem Sterling has to be a contender for player of the tournament so far. He has been crucial to England's run to the final, has been pretty much in every game we've played so far the best player on the pitch. Obviously got some pretty essential goals as well against Czech Republic and Croatia, was incredibly good against Ukraine, really good against Germany as well, had a very good game, obviously getting a goal in there as well, and just completely ran the show last night, running at the defenders for 120 minutes. So in my opinion, he's probably going to be the leading candidate for player of the tournament. I think as well you can also talk about players like Jorginho, he's had a really good tournament. Spinazzola as well deserves a lot of credit. Harry Kane potentially 4 goals, especially if he gets 1 or 2 in the final and finishes with the golden boot. Harry Maguire as well has had a really solid tournament in terms of Denmark. Mikel Damsgaard, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Kasper Schmeichel, and from Spain, Jordi Alba's had a really good tournament. Pedri as well as maybe a potential candidate for young player of the tournament. There's a few candidates in there. I'll probably name someone like that in the sort of retrospective video I end up doing. That though does wrap up this episode of the Euro Reaction, the penultimate one in the series. Stay tuned for the final on Sunday. Probably going to be getting that on Monday, my reactions to that, hopefully on like Monday morning or Monday afternoon. If you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel. It really helps in getting YouTube and the algorithm to get my views up and my content seen by more people, so I'd really appreciate it if you do that for me. If you want to follow me on social media and get my thoughts on the Euro 2020 final, of course, my Twitter and Instagram as usual are MaxDJ Goodwin for both, all one word, all lowercase as well. And with that being said, thanks very much for watching. Thanks for sticking by this series throughout Euro 2020. Stay tuned for the last part next week. I will see you later.